In my hands, I have two of the most forgiving driver models ever made, and in today's video, we're putting them head to head to see how they stack up and compare against one another. So let's get right into it. Alrighty guys, so I think it's a pretty safe bet to say 2024 has been the year of the max forgiveness driver. It seems like every other week a manufacturer is dropping a max style head. But in my opinion, no one has taken the high MOI focus quite as seriously as both Taylormade and Ping. So for those who don't know, MOI is basically resistance to twisting on and off center strike. The higher the MOI value, the more resistant a golf club is to twisting either open or close when struck off center. And in turn, the higher the MOI value, the straighter your misses should go. Now, both the Ping G430 Max 10K and Taylormade Qi10 Max are the only drivers on the market currently that come stock with a total MOI value of over 10,000 grams per centimeter squared, making them theoretically the most forgiving drivers in golf. But the question that always begs to be asked is, how do these two high MOI drivers actually differ in terms of looks, feel, and overall performance? And that is what we are here to find out today. So we are taking both of these driver models out on the range and putting them in a head-to-head battle using GC Quad, with the end goal of figuring out which head is going to suit your game the best. All that said, we're out here on the driving range now, so let's get into testing. Alrighty guys, so we are all warmed up here, and I think the way that we're going to work through this is we're going to start with both of these drivers in their 9-degree positions, and then we'll kind of try to dial them in as best we can and hopefully see how they stack up and compare in their most optimal loft positions. Both of these drivers are shafted up with Graphite Design Tour 80 DI 7TX driver shafts, so spec-wise, they're pretty much the same, both 9 degrees of starting loft. It's going to be a pretty close comparison. I'm very excited to see how this thing goes. We're going to start with the Qi10 Max, and then we'll go G430 Max 10K. Taking a look down at this Qi10 Max, in terms of shaping with this driver, it's definitely a little bit different. So it stretches a lot from front to back, kind of an ovally shape down at address in terms of how it sits. It's a little bit closed as well, kind of toes in a little bit, which in terms of the shaping, I don't love it. It's kind of long from front to back in my opinion, not something that really suits my eye. And in terms of it toeing in, I don't like when drivers toe in. I like them to sit square, maybe if anything slightly open, but really just pretty square. But what I do love about this driver at address, the carbon fiber infinity crown, I think that was really smart by Taylormade. It is super clean and looks sleek, looks very fast in the sunlight. I mean, when you see that gloss carbon fiber, it's pretty sick, I'm not gonna lie. But nonetheless, let's go ahead and hit this thing and see what the numbers look like. All right, so right off the bat, it's a big draw right there. I mean, the thing about Qi10 Max is it is definitely draw bias. Now, I did toe that a little bit, but definitely, it's just a draw bias head. There's really no other way around it. In terms of numbers right there, 165 ball, 270 carry, 3,300 spin, 12.3 launch. So high spin, high launch, draw bias. That's pretty much what I'm used to with the Qi10 Max. Try to kind of pull left on it so it didn't overdraw, and it definitely didn't draw too much, but I know it was super spinny, and it was. 3750 spin, 165 ball, 264 carry, 11.9 launch. All right, let's see if I can just center one here with like a little tight draw would be, I think, an ideal ball flight for this head. All right, that was pretty good. It was like a millimeter low, but I thought it was pretty darn good. 166 ball, so a little bit higher ball, 12 launch, 270, 3,500. Okay, that's kind of our baseline numbers. 3,400-ish spin, 165 to 166 ball, 270-ish carry, around 12.5 launch. I think that's pretty fair assessment to start. I don't really want to hit any more with the Qi10 Max at 9 degrees because I know it's not right. So we'll start with G430 Max 10K at 9, and then we'll go from there. We'll see what the numbers kind of initially give us. But taking a look down at this, all right, right off the bat, it's a busier head, but I'll be honest with you guys, I do prefer it to the Qi10 Max in terms of looks. It doesn't sit closed at all, which I like, and I really love the matte finish. It is busy. I don't love the turbulators. I think that they could really do away with those in the future, maybe create some sort of aerodynamic system on the bottom as opposed to the crown that you don't really see, but I do love the matte finish. I love this kind of matte carbon fiber in the back, looks really good, and I like the shaping of it. It's not as ovally as the Qi10 Max. I'd like to think it's a little shallower in terms of face depth. They do look pretty similar, to be honest, but yeah, I think just as a whole, to me, this looks a little bit better down at address as opposed to the Qi10 Max, my personal opinion. But at the end of the day, looks are not really that important in a driver if the numbers do not stack up. So let's see how this goes numbers wise. Okay, that felt hotter. I towed that, did not really draw, felt very stable on a toe miss. Really good numbers. 166, 277, 12, 3,100. Just on that one shot, obviously it is just one shot, but a little bit lower spin. Pretty decent ball speed for a miss, I'd like to say. Now, this head does feel heavy. That's important to note. You know, the Ping heads come in about, I want to say 8 grams heavier than the Taylormade Qi10 Max. I want to say I weighted, I think it's like 195 to 197, and I believe this is right around 206. So it should be like 8 to 10 grams difference in terms of head weight. And you can definitely feel feel that. Like this G430 Max 10K does feel a little bit heavier down by the golf ball for sure. Not a bad feeling. If you like heavier head weights, I think that you'll love the feel of this, but if you don't, it's definitely something you're gonna have to note and probably get used to a little bit. That felt pretty hot, I'm gonna be honest. And I'm surprised it didn't turn. To me, that felt very similar to like the first Qi10 Max shot that turned a little bit more. That one seemed like it wanted to stay a little bit straighter. Really good numbers. 167 ball, 287 carry, 12 launch, 2500. Very solid. I mean, just looking at these initial numbers, it's not a shocker, man. Ping knows how to make a forgiving driver. That is for sure. We'll go one more with this in kind of this stock position. I do think it has a little bit too much loft, and we'll knock it down. That was not as stable as the second one. That went pretty far left. But it's quick, man. 167, 280, 11, 2860. I mean, to be fair, there is some human error in those left shots. I can sit here and completely blame the driver. That would be a little bit asinine, to say the least. Okay, I think those are pretty good baseline numbers. I'd like to say on a decent strike with this G430 Max 10K, it's probably right around 3,000. And I think with the Qi10 Max, it's a little bit closer to maybe like 3,300. So I'm gonna go ahead and knock this down to its lowest loft setting, which is 7. We'll start there. And I think we'll put the G430 Max 10K at -1.5, which will be 7.5. I think those would be pretty comparable. To me, that G430 Max 10K does seem like it needs maybe a little bit more loft as opposed to the Qi10. But nonetheless, taking a look down at this now in the 7-degree position, so 2 degrees lower, looks a lot better. Obviously, the shaping hasn't changed at all, but the face angle sits a lot more square, which I do really like. I just got on top of that. 164 ball, big miss. 270 carry, 8.7, 3,000. Let's try to center one up here. I mean, I have no excuses. I need to just sack it up and stripe these for the culture. I don't know if I would call that stripes, but that was definitely a pretty good strike. And the numbers say the same thing. 167, 11.7, 2,500, 287. That's really good. We're gonna go one more with this. I need to switch gloves. I'm sweating like a hog. Let's try to get 2 decent strikes with this. 167 ball is our benchmark. There we go, finally. I think it might have actually been the glove. My hand was kind of slipping, but that's really good. 167, 282, 12, 2,800. I think those are very fair numbers. We'll go one more with this. To me, you know, the thing about this Qi10 Max is it just does seem draw biased, which is just, it's not my thing. I was trying to draw the driver for a while, but now I'm back to just try to hit like a straight shot or like kind of a drop right shot. I don't really want it to draw, and this is just, because of the CG, if you center it, it wants to twist and kind of create that gear effect. It makes it go a little bit left. Not that that's a bad thing. I mean, it just doesn't really suit what I'm looking for. All right, a little spinny, but a pretty decent strike. 165, 270, 12.8, 3,400. Can't end on that, man. Can't go back to that G430 Max 10K with a 3,400 spin ball. That's insane. It's just one of those heads where if you do start to miss it, like it spins up. It's trying to make sure it doesn't go offline. Felt like that was a good strike. All right, there's our fastest ball speed of the day. 168, 278, 10.9, 3,050 spin. I think that's kind of where this driver sits. It's maybe just below 3K on a good strike. To me, that was maybe a little low faced, but 67 to 68 ball, around 12 launch on a good one. Those ones I'm kind of trying to like stay on top of it to make sure it doesn't go too high or spin too much, and then the launch angle gets a little bit low. So I think it's closer to 12 launch and maybe around 275, 280 carry. If I catch one with relatively low spin, it can get up to like 285, but it is kind of important to note that quad can tend to overread carry when the spin gets low. That's just a little flaw of the GC quad. But nonetheless, we're going to G430 Max 10K at -1.5 degrees. So this puts us at 7.5. I mean, just looking at the initial numbers, I have a feeling this one's going to be hard to beat. Because to me, it was in a pretty similar spin window at 9 degrees, and now we have it down 1.5 degrees. All right, looking down at this, I mean, this thing looks good to me. I don't like the turbulators, like I said, but it sits really nice. I actually really like the face depth of it. Damn, that is pretty low. Definitely seems more right biased to me. 10.4, yeah, so pretty low launch. 166, 279, 2850 spin. Yeah, I mean, there's just no doubt about it. I think in my mind, this is a little bit more right biased compared to the Qi10 Max. I did hit one that was kind of snipey, but that's just more on me than the driver. Yeah, 100% more right biased. I mean, you can see that thing's cutting once I'm making better swings. 65 ball, 277, 11.5, 2880. I'll tell you what, they've done a really good job with the sound of this driver. It's not very loud. It's not super pingy. It's definitely not like dead sounding or crunchy sounding, kind of like the Qi10, but it's very nice off the face in terms of sound. That was a really good ball right there. 11.5. I think a little bit lower initial launch on this driver. Spin is a little bit lower. 167 ball, 285 carry, 2,700 spin. But man, the ball speed's pretty comparable. I do think that the Qi10 Max has a slight advantage, first and foremost, because it's got less loft. Second of all, because it's a lighter head. You know, those are two really important things drivers when it comes to ball speed. I mean, if I'm going to swing it a little bit faster and it has less loft, it is going to come out a little bit hotter, but it's not much different. I mean, carry-wise, numbers-wise, it's not like that's way longer. I do think it is a hair longer, though, if you get it dialed in properly. That was a miss. That's gonna be spinny, I bet. Yeah, it was spinny, but it was only 3150. I think with Qi10 Max, that would have jumped to like 3450. 166 ball, 275, 12.5. That's just me getting under it a little bit. But yeah, guys, I think this is kind of where we're at. Qi10 Max to me seems a little bit more draw biased, a little bit higher spinning, but a little bit quicker ball speed, a little bit higher launching. And then G430 Max 10K seems maybe slightly less ball speed, slightly lower launch, slightly lower spin, and pretty comparable in terms of carry. I think if you're gonna give one of them like an advantage in terms of how far their max carries could be, I think I would give it to Qi10 Max, but it's not by much. No, I low-faced it. 166, 266, 9, 35, 40 spin. I mean, that is the thing about this Qi10 Max. It just wants to jump and spin if you start to miss it low. Try to rip one. Okay, well, that might take out somebody in Guadalajara right there. That's about 100 yards offline. But we got 170 ball out of it, 286, 11.5, 28, 24 spin. So, I mean, this driver is pretty quick. That is the thing about it. I don't know if it's as stable for somebody who fights the overdraw. That's the thing. Because when I'm missing these, they're either spinny or they're just diving left. I mean, this driver just gears very hard. You can just see it, because when I start to swing these faster, my path goes a little bit right, and like they're just very quick to want to turn. But it is freaking fast, dude. 171 ball, 282 carry, 10.5, 3,000. I mean, geez, if you fight a slice and you want speed, I think you'd be hard pressed to beat that. All right, let's try to rip a couple with G430 Max 10K. I mean, that was kind of similar to the first one I tried to rip, but pretty quick ball. 9.1 launch, so like 1/10 of a degree higher launch in that first Qi10 one I tried to kill. 168 ball, which is pretty quick. I think that's our fastest so far. 2800, 281. Try to actually center one up here. I mean, this is just a 100% more right biased. No other way around it. 168, 280, 10.4, 29.74. You know, the thing about these drivers, like when you're looking at these numbers, is I don't think either one of them is better or worse. They're genuinely just different. Like, they're fitting different segments of golfers. I mean, there's just very clear in the ball flights and the numbers. That was nailed. And to me, that felt like a very similar contact to the Qi10 ones that are just diving out of the sky. And that was freaking fast. 171, 298, 11.7, 2,500. Phenomenal numbers right there. Absolutely phenomenal. You know, I really think with these drivers, looking at these numbers, hitting them, seeing what their biases are, both are really good, just in different ways. But nonetheless, let's go over my final conclusions and kind of talk about who I think these drivers would be best for. Right, guys, so that was our testing of the brand new Ping G430 Max 10K versus the new Taylormade Qi10 Max. Now what we're gonna do is break these drivers down into some different categories. I'll give you my opinions and then also give you my pick for each category as well. So starting with looks, I mean, each of these drivers both have attributes I really like and also don't like. So we'll start with Qi10 Max. You know, the thing I like about this driver is the infinity crown. I think it looks phenomenal. I've said it once, I'll say it 1,000 times over. It looks fast, but also very, very sleek. I love the way the carbon fiber looks in the sun. It's phenomenal. Now, in terms of the things I do not like with Qi10 Max, the shaping. It's very ovally, it's very elongated from front to back. It's not really a shape that fits my eye. I prefer a little bit more of a deeper pear-shaped look. Additionally, in the standard loft setting, this driver does sit a little bit close to my eye, which is not something that I prefer. But where I will give Taylormade credit is once you get this lofted down to 7, which is where I would play this head, it does sit pretty nice and square. Getting into the Ping G430 Max 10K, in terms of looks of this driver, what I don't like right off the bat is the turbulators, is the crown. I do think it is a little bit busy looking, but that's about the only thing I don't like. I love the shaping, I love the face depth, I love the matte finish, I love how this thing sits at address, very square in the standard 9-degree position, and then once you put it down 1.5 degrees aloft, it still sits pretty square, if anything slightly open, which is a look that I do really prefer. And I think as a whole, if I had to choose one, I would take the Ping G430 Max 10K in terms of looks. Now, as we get into feel with these drivers, we'll start with Qi10 Max. You know, this is a very familiar feeling driver to me. I've played Stealth, Stealth 2, and now Qi10, and I do like the carbon face. I think Taylormade's done a really nice job at making this feel a little bit more crunchy, a little bit more of a muted sound, but also nice and hot off the face, which is tough to do when you have so much mass in the back of the head. Now with G430 Max 10K, this driver is a little bit louder sounding, a little bit tinnier sounding, I would say, but Ping has done a really nice job with the acoustics. It is not nearly as tinny or loud as some of their older models, and I would say more of a pop off the face as opposed to a crunch with the Qi10 Max. Additionally, this driver feels pretty decently hot. It's something I would not have expected. I wouldn't say it's quite as hot as the Qi10 Max, but in comparison to other Ping drivers, I would say it definitely feels like it has a little bit of heat. I think as a whole, you could probably go either way with these. They are just different in terms of how they sound and feel, but I think I would give the edge to the Qi10 Max. It's just a little bit more familiar with what I'm used to. Now, getting into launch and spin with the Qi10 Max, you know, to me, this is a very high launch, high spin driver. When you miss it low in the face, if anything, it wants to spin up. It really just wants to stay in the air. That's what this driver does well. With the G430 Max 10K, I feel like this had a slightly initial lower launch angle compared to the Qi10 Max, and additionally, probably around 300 RPMs lower spin in the exact same loft setting. Additionally, I really love the fact that this driver stayed consistent in terms of launch and spin on off-center strikes. I would say especially spin. It never really felt like this was gonna jump up to 3,500 RPMs. Seemed like the spin window was very tight, which I think is really, really impressive. So launch and spin wise, it's tough to say that one of these is better than the other because everybody's gonna have different needs, but me personally, I did prefer the G430 Max 10K from a launch and spin perspective. Speed wise, we'll start with Qi10 Max. You know, I think this driver is really impressive. Taylormade has always been a leader in the speed category, but for them to get this over 10K grams per centimeter squared total MOI, while also keeping it a pretty light head is really impressive. And because of that, you're gonna be able to swing it a little bit faster, which will return quicker ball speed. Now with G430 Max 10K, this is definitely not a slow head. You know, I would say on the majority of the shots, it was easily within a mile an hour of the Qi10 Max, and on our highest ball speed shot, they were the exact same. So this is definitely not slow, but the things you have to remember about this head, it is about 10 grams heavier, which will yield a slower swing speed return with this driver. Additionally, on the lowest loft setting, it's about a half a degree more loft than the Qi10 Max, which is slight, I know, but it will give you a slightly lower ball speed number because of that loft difference. And so in terms of the speed department, it's close, but I would give it to Qi10 Max. I think you can just get a little bit more out of this head than you can with the Ping G430 Max 10K. Getting up into forgiveness now, you know, both of these drivers are very forgiving in their own way. Qi10 Max is simply a higher launching, more draw bias head. So if you're somebody who really struggles with an overcut, a slice, if you will, this is really going to be the driver to consider. Additionally, if you're a slower speed player, you need launch and spin to keep the golf ball in the air and maximize your carry. That's where this driver is going to be really, really helpful. On the contrary to that, Ping G430 Max 10K is a lot more right biased in my opinion. I think if you're somebody who really struggles with the overdraw, you struggle with toe shots, this driver is going to be your friend. Additionally, I do feel like it has a tighter spin window from top to bottom, like I mentioned earlier. And so because of that, if you're somebody who struggles to find center, this driver is going to allow you to miss center and still get pretty consistent launch, spin, and overall carry numbers. Hopefully kind of talking you guys through those different categories helped you dissect these heads and what they do well and who they are going to be best suited for. You know, I think as a whole, it would be tough for me to say one of these is better than the other. They are very different max forgiveness heads. I think if I had to choose one to game, I would probably give the edge to the Ping, really just because of how it sits at address. That's really important to me. And I like the lower launch and spin window. But you know, me personally, I wouldn't fit into a max forgiveness driver head in the first place, so I probably wouldn't play either one of these. So my opinion can be taken a little bit with a grain of salt. As a whole, like I said, really good heads, just different in how they work. I'd be very curious to hear your guys' opinion if you had the chance to test either of these heads or both of them, or you're considering them for your bag in 2024. So go ahead and drop those opinions in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a like. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments down below or shoot me a DM via Instagram. Make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel and you click that notification bell so you are notified anytime that we post a new video. Additionally, make sure you're following us on our other social media channels, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok. Always great content on those channels as well. We'll catch you in the next video. Peace.